We're going to dive into a question today that I think is so powerful. And it's this: how do you take what you believe about yourself, your core spiritual identity, and actually make it real in your day to day life? We're talking about closing that gap between who you believe you are and what you actually do. So just think about it for a second. You probably have a pretty strong sense of who you are spiritually. But do your daily choices, your habits, your reactions, do they really line up with that? That's the tension we're going to dig into right now. All right, first up, let's tackle this big one: the difference between knowing something and actually living it. It's so easy to gather information, to listen to talks, to read books, but to turn all that info into real, lasting transformation, well, that's the real challenge, isn't it? And hey, this is not a new problem. This has been the human struggle for ages. Thousands of years ago, the book of James just laid it out so clearly. Be doers of the word and not hearers only. This right here. This is our foundation. It's a call to action. It's about moving past just consuming truth and starting to actually practice it. And this slide just breaks it down perfectly. For someone who is just a hearer, truth is basically just data. It's information that hangs out in your mind, but it can be temporary, right? But for a doer, that same truth sinks in so much deeper. It becomes formation in the heart. It goes from being just a cool idea to becoming your lived, breathing reality. And that is the goal. So this whole idea isn't about some single dramatic moment of change. It's about putting your identity into action, day in and day out. Real transformation, it's a lifestyle. It's not a one-time event. I love this picture. Think of yourself as being on the potter's wheel. It's such a perfect image for this continuous growth. You're not who you used to be, but you're not yet who you're gonna be either. You are a work in progress, being shaped and molded moment by moment, day by day. And Ephesians 2:10 just drives this home. It says we are created for good works, but look at that verb it uses. It says we should walk in them, not just think about them, not just agree with them in theory, but to walk, to move, to act. Our identity demands action. Okay, so if we're supposed to walk in this new identity, how on earth do we actually do that? This is where we find the real engine of transformation. And here's the secret, and it's a big one. It is not about gritting your teeth and just trying harder. It's about a divine partnership. Philippians 2:13 tells us exactly where the power comes from. It says, "For it is God who works in you both to will and to do." Think about what that means. God isn't just waiting for you at the finish line, cheering you on. No, He is actively working inside you, shaping your very desires, and then giving you the strength to follow through. And this is just a game-changing distinction. What we're talking about here is not some self-help program with 5 easy steps to a better you. It's the complete opposite. It's about surrender, about letting go and allowing God to work in you and through you. This totally reframes a word that can feel intimidating, a word like holiness. It's not about being flawless or achieving some kind of perfect record. Holiness, in a really practical sense, is just the consistent choice to follow God, one small decision at a time, with His help. Okay, so let's get super practical. Let's talk about the habit of holiness. And this is where things get really fascinating, because you start to see these timeless spiritual truths lining up perfectly with what modern science is telling us. Check this out: 70%. A Stanford study found that people who simply tracked their spiritual progress, just paid attention to it, were 70% more likely to stick with those positive changes. That is huge. It just goes to show what we pay attention to, we tend to improve. Simple awareness is an incredible catalyst for growth. And it goes even deeper, like right into our own brains. Neurological research is now showing that spiritual practices like reflection and gratitude literally rewire our neural pathways. They strengthen the parts of our brain that handle hope, memory, and making wise decisions. I mean, think about it. Thousands of years ago, the Bible talked about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. And now science is literally showing us how that physically happens. It's amazing. So how can you start building these habits? Here is a dead simple but incredibly effective tool from behavioral science called habit stacking. The whole idea is to link a new spiritual habit you want to build onto an existing one that you already do automatically. For instance, you could decide, right after I brush my teeth, I'm going to pray for 1 minute. Or before I have my first sip of coffee, I'm going to read 1 verse. It all boils down to creating a simple daily rhythm. The journey of transformation isn't built on grand gestures. It's built on these small, repeatable steps. Filling your mind with truth, talking with God in prayer, learning to listen and respond to His voice, and then intentionally choosing to act on it. And that brings us to our last section, Your Life, His Purpose. This is where we zoom out and connect all those small daily choices to a much, much bigger picture. They're not just random actions. They are the very building blocks of a life filled with purpose. You know, when you start living from this place of identity and purpose, even the hard stuff, even your struggles, they start to take on new meaning. As Romans 8:28 famously says, all things work together for good. That means nothing in your life is wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the setbacks, when you place it all in God's hands. And this leads to such a beautiful idea. The very things that you thought might break you can be transformed into a story that actually strengthens someone else. When you receive comfort and healing from God, you become uniquely equipped to offer that same comfort to another person. Your healing can literally become somebody else's hope. And that brings us right back where we started, full circle, to that powerful, incredible declaration, for we are His workmanship. You are not an accident. You are a masterpiece, designed with incredible intention. Your life carries an eternal weight and purpose, crafted by the Creator Himself. You were created for a purpose. The only question left is whether you'll participate in it. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What is one small step, one single choice that you can make today to start walking in that purpose?